Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janda Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janda Vallabha Girivana Dari Yasoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Naviyari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Sodanandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Bhavidakacharya Asatar Sada Shishimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Vaishnavani Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapunardam Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Gaup Hemanandi. All glories some devotees. All glories some devotees. All glories some devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Small turnout this morning. Huh? Oh yeah? Okay, reading from the Srimadbhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 23, text number 29. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading the srimadbhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 23, text number 29. Maitreya Vacha Stuvatishu Amara Strishu Patilokang Gata Vadhu Yang Va Atmavidham Duryo Vainya Prapat Yutashraya Maitreya Vacha Stuvatis Vamara Patilokan Katavadhu Yang Va Atma Vidang Duryo Vainya Prapat Yutashraya Maitreya Vacha Stuvatus Vamarastrishu Patilokam Gatavadu Yang Va Atma Vadang Duryo Vanya Prapat Yutashraya Maitreya Vacha Stuvatus Vamarastrishu Patilokam Gatavadu Yang Va Atma Vidang Duryo Vainya Prabha Yutashraya Stuvatis Yamarastrishu Marilokam Gatavadu Va Atmavidam Duryo Vanya Prapajitashraya. Maitreya Vacha, the great sage Maitreya continued to speak. Stuvatishu, while glorifying Amarastrishu, by the wives of the denizens of heaven. Patilokam, the planet where the husband had gone. Gata, reaching. Bodhu, the wife. Yam, where. Va, or. Atma Vidam, of the self-realized souls. Dorya, the topmost. Vainya, the son of King Vena, Prithu Maharaj. Prapa, obtained. Achyuta Ashraya, under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki. The great sage Maitreya continued speaking, My dear Vidura, when the wives of the denizens of heaven were thus talking amongst themselves, Queen Archie reached the planet which her husband, Maharishi Prithu, the topmost self-realized soul, had attained. Purport. According to Vedic scriptures, a woman who dies with her husband or enters into the fire in which her husband is burning also enters the same planet her husband attains. In this material world there is a planet known as Patiloka, just as there is a planet known as Pitraloka. But in this verse, the word Patiloka does not refer to any planet within this material universe. For Prithu Maharaj, being topmost self-realized souls, certainly returned home back to Godhead. Being topmost amongst self-realized soul, certainly returned home back to Godhead, and attained one of the Vaikuntha planets. Queen Archie also entered Patiloka, but this planet is not in the material universe, for she actually entered the planet which her husband had attained. In the material world also, when a woman dies with her husband, she again unites with him in the next birth. Similarly, Maharishi Prithu and Queen Kunti united in the Vaikuntha planets. In the Vaikuntha planets there are husbands and wives, but there is no question of their giving birth to children or having sex life. In this Vaikuntha planets, both husbands and wives are extraordinarily beautiful, and they are attracted to one another, but they do not enjoy sex life. Indeed, they consider sex not to be very relishable, because both husband and wife are always absorbed in Krishna consciousness and in glorifying and chanting the glories of the Lord. According to Bhaktivinoda Thakur also, a husband and wife can turn the home into a place as good as Vaikuntha, even while in this material world. Being absorbed in Krishna consciousness, even in this world, husband and wife can live in Vaikuntha simply by installing the deity of the Lord within the home and serving the deity according to the directions of the Shastras. In this way, they will never feel the sex urge. That is the test of advancement in devotional service. One who is advanced in devotional service is never attracted by sex life. And as soon as one becomes detached from sex life and proportionally attached to the service of the Lord, he actually experiences living in the Vaikuntha planets. In the ultimate issue, there is actually no material world, but when one forgets the service of the Lord and engages himself in the service of his senses, he is said to be living in the material world. Om Gyananandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Takshum Litam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama Mukam Gurudava Talang Bang Mangaite Gurim Yat Kripa Tadaham Bande Shikarum Dinataranam Vanchikapati Vyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This sati rite that women undergo in the past, that they would undergo in the past, is kind of inconceivable in this present day and age, that the husband would die and the lady would go into the fire in which he is being burned. Inconceivable. But you could see how much affection they must have had for their husband. Nowadays, I mean, women have, it's normal, have like 3 marriages, I looked it up to see how many the world record is. One lady said 23 marriages. And she married another guy. He had the record for the most marriages in male. Male. Yeah, they married each other. Probably not. Yeah. So yeah, it's a pretty loose game nowadays in Kali Yuga. But incredible culture. But it became, because of Kali Yuga, it became degraded, and it was sometimes women were forced into the fire. They weren't, in Kali Yuga, they didn't have that devotion, so they were forced into the fire where their husband was being burned. And the British were in charge at that time, and they just you can imagine, forcing some lady into the fire. So they stopped it. It became illegal, actually. But amazing pastime of Pandu. When Pandu left this world, he was in the fire, and Madri, because Pandu had approached Madri, of course you all know the curse that he had, that if he approached any woman in an amorous way, then he would die, because of his. He killed a deer, right? And there were sages, and they couldn't, because they were so austere, they couldn't do it in the human form, so they took the forms of deer, and they were mating, and he killed. And then the deer spoke with a human voice, that because you have done this to us, when you approach your wife in an amorous way, you will also die. So he was in the forest with Madri, and had this amorous mood, and he approached her and died. So, but he had two wives, Madri and Kunti. So both of them wanted to enter into the fire. Amazing. But Madri said, because he approached me, I should go in the fire. And because you're also more equal, you'll be equal to all the sons. She understood that Kunti is such an exalted devotee. So Madri went into the fire, and Kunti, she took care of the children, Pandavas. In Vaikuntha, it's described here that there's husbands and wives, but there's no sex attraction. They're just absorbed in serving Krishna. It's a higher taste. Vijaya Dasa naraharosne. There was one devotee, from Europe, and he had never had sex before he joined the movement. But then he decided, well, maybe it'd be better if I get married. So he got married and had sex to raise children. And after having sex with his wife, he said, "That's it? That's what all the talk is about? That's nothing compared to a good kirtan." So he was like, come on, that's nothing. This is the kirtan, this is the higher taste. This is. And how long does it take? A minute or two. It's just like so much fuss over such a. But this is the heavenly pleasure, which is the main attraction in the material world. But in the spiritual world, it's not there, because they have this love for Krishna. And the goal is to go back home. It says, Prithu here, he's going back home. So this is the goal, to go back home, back to God. But there's some restriction. Just like there's millions of people on this planet that would love to come to America and be a citizen of America, a U.S. citizen. But they can't do it. There's major restrictions to coming here and becoming a citizen in the United States. So there's also restrictions to go into the spiritual world, much higher restrictions. The main qualification for entering into the spiritual world is one has to have love for Krishna and have no other desire than to serve Krishna. So that's not easy. We have so many desires. Apoyamanam machala pratistam samudam apa bhavasantya tadvat kamayam bhavasantya sarve sasanti apnodi nakama kami. One is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires which enter like rivers into the ocean, which is always being filled, which is always steady, alone achieves peace, and not the person who strives to satisfy such desires. So we have so many desires, so many material desires. So this process of Krishna consciousness, this bhakti yoga process, is meant to help us to become free of these material desires and just have this one desire to serve Krishna, which is our natural desire. Deep down, we're all pure servants of Krishna. So, but now we have this covering. Just like Krishna says, Avatam jnanam etina jnanino nityavar kamarutena konteya dusprena nalena. The wise living in his pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. So this is the covering of the pure soul. So by this process of hearing and chanting, we're trying to uncover this pure desire to serve Krishna. And Krishna, he gives the process. Tasmat twang anyanyada. Therefore, from the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this formidable enemy known as lust. So this is the key. You've got to regulate the senses. Prabhupada has given us such a nice program. We rise early, and we have Mangalartik, and we chant our rounds, and we hear srimadbhagavatam, take Krishna prasadam. All this is meant to help regulate our senses, so that we can focus our mind and senses on the service of Krishna. It's like we have these 16 rounds. Now the idea is that we chant these rounds, these 16 rounds, and this creates a momentum so that we can think of Krishna throughout the day. And many of you have had the example or the experience that you're, through the day you're just, the mantra is there, isn't it? And you're walking or something, or you're doing something, you just chant, isn't it? We've all had the experience, and that's the result of this chanting, 16 rounds. And the goal, of course, is to remember Krishna always. Sadatang kirtiyantamam, always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls, they perpetually worship me with devotion. So this is the goal, to become absorbed in Krishna and free of this poison. Actually, this sex desire is a poison. Yeah. And Prabhupada mentions here in the purport, how much we are free of sex desire is the test of our advancement in Krishna consciousness. So this is the barometer of our advancement in Krishna consciousness. And there's interesting that there was one devotee who joined the movement, and before he joined, he was very licentious. He had many relations and sexual activities. And so he joined, and then a friend of his who knew him before he joined, he said, "I know there must be something amazing in this Hare Krishna movement because you have given up sex. I mean, I just can't find that to be possible. How is it?" Just found it impossible. And he's a sannyasi now, this devotee. Brahmachari and then right to sannyas. Nice devotee. Many of you know, probably Ritavraja Swami. You know Ritavraja Swami? You know, he's a real character. But, you get a higher taste from Krishna consciousness, where it's not even interesting anymore, the sexual activity. Like I tell people, sometimes I tell them I'm a monk. Really? Well, how long have you been a monk? Oh, 40 years. 40 years? You haven't had sex for 40 years? No? Like, wow. Must be something in this, And sometimes it's said, well, we shouldn't speak against sexual activity. But actually, if we mention this to people, they're amazed, and they actually have great respect for that, because this is like, the whole world is just moving on this sex desire. But it's actually not the highest pleasure. The highest pleasure is in service to Krishna. These bodily functions, this is just service to the body. Kamarinam katina katita padita dornijas tesam jata mainu kurunana trapano pashanti uchujaitam atitu padesam patam labdi buddhi tomayata sarnam avayam nam yuksadasya. Rupa Goswami, he says, for so long I've been the humble menial servant of many bad masters. And these masters, they've never shown me any mercy. Generally, when you serve some master, you get something favorable in return. But they've never given me anything favorable in return. I've never been ashamed of serving them. But now, my Lord, you've given me transcendental intelligence. So I no longer want to serve these bad masters, lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, madness. I no longer want to serve them. Now, I just want to serve you. So we should pray for this transcendental intelligence by which we no longer want to serve these bad masters. Practically everybody is the humble servant of these masters that give no relief, no actual pleasure. But if we surrender to Krishna, the Supreme Master, then we'll be completely satisfied. We won't hanker after anything else. We'll just want to devote ourselves to the service of the Lord. Why? Because Krishna, He's so great that He can satisfy unlimited living entities. This is Krishna. In this world, there's no woman that can completely satisfy any man. Nor is there a man that can fully satisfy any woman. Why? Because we're all conditioned souls. Yeah. Eventually, there's some disappointment. When I was looking this up to see who was the longest, or who had the most divorces, I found that there was a couple. They were married for over 60 years. They got divorced when he was 98, and she was like 96. Couldn't handle it anymore. I mean, it lasted. They tolerated each other for a pretty good period. So they were married over 30 years, like 36 years or something. No, 60 years, like 63 years or something like that. Couldn't handle it anymore. So this is the material world. You become disappointed. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, I wonder what it was, the straw that broke the... Yeah. So yeah, we become disappointed because we're conditioned souls. But Krishna, he's the most wonderful personality. We won't be disappointed. We won't be disappointed in surrendering to the lotus feet of Krishna. Now Prabhupada, he was also married. But he said he didn't like his wife. He said she was a devotee. But he said not our type of devotee. Like there's Hindus that are also somewhat devotees. But ISKCON devotees are different. Our focus is on Krishna. So he wanted to marry again. He had plans to marry another lady. That was back when that was illegal. So his father found out that he wanted to marry another lady. And he said, no, better not. It's good that you don't like your wife. Because then it'll be easier to detach from her. It'll be easier. So he was very humble and very devoted to his father. She said, okay. So he had many children. He had about 5 children. Which is interesting because it's in the Bhagavad Gita it said that if one doesn't perfect one's bhakti in this life, in their next life, you'll be born into a family of devotees, which is highly rare. It's very rare. But here he had 5 children born into his family. None of them became a devotee. Not one of them. One was favorable. I think Vrindavan was favorable. But he didn't become a devotee. And one of his sons sued our society. We had to give him a lot of money. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was the person that was fighting him in court. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he told me himself, he said he was so intelligent. One of his arguments was that to the judge, he said, actually, my father, he wasn't such a spiritual person. This whole ISKCON society, it was just a business move. It was just business. And he's a good businessman. He made a lot of money, but he wasn't so spiritual. And the judge said, you nonsense rascal. Everybody knows Prabhupada was a saint. Sit down, you rascal. He chastised him. So they settled out of court. But, here's Shaktivis avatar, Prabhupada, such a pure devotee. Not only did his son not become a devotee, but he sued Prabhupada's society. Yeah. So, generally you get married. The idea is you get married, you have Krishna conscious children, but good luck. I've known so many guru coolies, and it's very rare to find any of them that actually came out to be good devotees. There are some. There's some very nice, devotees that have come out of devotee families, but it's rare. And the reason is that they grow up in our society, And they're growing up with everything. They grow up with the beads, they grow up with the prasadam, they grow up with the devotees, they grow up with the deities, they grow up with all these things. And familiarity breeds contempt. So they become too familiar with everything. Whereas ourselves, when we joined, it was all completely new. We had already been there. We'd been there, done it, with material life. We knew what that was like, and we had enough of it. We didn't want it anymore. But this is so nice. This is new and fresh and wonderful. Prasadam and devotees and the philosophy. Everything is just so new and wonderful, isn't it? But they just heard about Maya. They already experienced all of the things in Krishna consciousness. They've been there, done it, saw that. But then they're hearing the pleasures of Maya, and they become bewildered and attracted. Maya is very attractive. Prabhupada told one story that there was one pastime with Prabhupada. He's on the beach here in California. They're walking, and one devotee says to Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, isn't the ocean beautiful?" And Prabhupada said, "Oh yeah, very beautiful, but it's beautiful from a distance. You get too close, and it's the cause of your death." So Maya is like that. Maya is attractive from a distance, but you get too close, and she'll be the cause of your spiritual death. So we got to keep our distance. And therefore, even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, women, devotees, they would have to pay obeisances to him from a distance, like 100 feet away or something. Women were not allowed to be around Lord Chaitanya. And he was very strict with the devotees. If there was any sannyasi or brahmachari that was inappropriate in any way, even a subtle way, even thinking, it's like that, was it Junior Haridas? And he was just thinking of a woman. He went to get some rice, I think, and Lord Chaitanya was eating the rice, and he said, "Who brought this rice?" Well, Junior Haridas. I don't want to see him anymore. He never got to see Lord Chaitanya again, and because he's omniscient, he knows. So what he did, he went to Madhavi, who was the sister of Sikamihiti, and she's one of the most dear. There's 3.5. Sikamihiti, Swarup Damodar, and who knows the other one? Ramananda Roy. And then Madhavi, she was the half. So he went to her to get some rice. In her room there was a younger lady, and he looked at her lustfully. So Lord Chaitanya knew. So he was never allowed to get the darshan of Lord Chaitanya again. So when devotees heard that, they were very strict, about being around women. So, and therefore it's said that in Vaishnava community we see women as mother. And I don't know about yourselves, but myself, there was no one that I had more respect for before joining the Hare Krishna movement than my mother. I would open the door for her, and we were going. So I was very respectful. So this is the idea that we should have great respect for the women. They're our mothers. And Prabhupada, he wanted that. Chandrika Pandit says that this is the sign of a wise person to see other women as mother. So it's very important to have this respect for the women and for everyone. In the material world, there's no respect. All the men are just trying to exploit the women. But when you see your mother, when you see a woman as your mother, then you don't want to exploit her, but you want to serve your mother. So it's so nice. And the women, they would always be protected. They would be protected by their father in the beginning of their life. Then they would be protected by the husband, and then they would be protected by their by their son. So I believe that if the son is living, then the wife doesn't do the sati, right? Is that correct? If the son of the yeah. So I think I think and I think this is why Dhritarashtra's wife, she did the sati. They had 100 sons, but they were all killed in the Battle of Kurukshetra. So she did that. But do you know, Prabhu? I think I remember reading that if the son is alive, then she's taken care of by the son, protected. Yeah, kind of makes sense. Protected by the son. So, maybe we'll stop there. Any question, comment?
I was wondering, in the purport it's saying there's the men and women, they're very beautiful bodies, and they can recognize that each other have beautiful bodies, but they aren't interested in sex life because they're engaged in devotional service. But so I'm wondering, I mean, it's kind of a trivial thing, but I'm wondering, is there like some transcendental stork system, or how are people born? Like how do people appear in the Vaikuntha planets? Like, do people appear in the Vaikuntha as babies, or do they just because they leave in good shape? Do they appear in good shape too?
Well, we're eternal. Mm-hmm. The soul's eternal, mm-hmm. And we have our swarup. So we have these eternal bodies. Yeah, there's no birth in the spiritual world. So we have these eternal swarup forms in the spiritual world, and we have those also. And as we carry on in devotional service, then gradually our relationship is this Siddha Swarup. This Siddha Swarup, our original relationship with Krishna, is revealed. And when we go back to the spiritual world, we have this Swarup. What's interesting in the purport is Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that in this world, if the husband and wife are engaged in devotional service, then their home becomes like Vaikuntha. It's not that we have to go back to the spiritual world to live a Vaikuntha life. No. Iha yasya harer dashe karmana manasagira. Anyone who engages their mind, body, and words in the service of Krishna, they're liberated even within this lifetime. So, yeah, we have these. We're eternal. We're not these bodies, and we had eternal spiritual bodies before we made our big blunder of trying to imitate Krishna. What's interesting also is in Shastra it's stated, Guru nasasyat svajano nasasyat, pita nasasyat svajani nasasyat, that one should not become a guru, one should not become a father, one should not become a mother, one should not become a teacher, unless one is able to deliver one's dependence from the cycle of birth and death. But I was thinking, but if one is so advanced that one can deliver their wife and children from the cycle of birth and death, then why get married? Right? Interesting, huh?